Hey there, Speedy Sleuths. Welcome to the bustling streets of our own Neon Noir, where mystery meets mayhem at the speed of sound.
I'm Jones Gray Fox, multiversal detective extraordinary.
I'm Spare the Tanuki, your plucky girl Friday.
And this is the Case Files of Sonic the Hedgehog, a new YouTube series where we dig into the real facts. Just how many seasons were there again? Was it 2? Was it 3? I'm pretty sure it was just the 2, but I heard about a third one. Could be for real. Just gotta know.
Today we are talking about the plot and story arcs from the Sonic Saturday morning cartoon series from the 90s, often referred to as Sonic SatAM.
Often wiki searched as Sonic SatAM.
Yeah, for those that are not familiar, there has been several. I don't even know how many Sonic cartoons at this point. Probably at least a dozen. But we in particular are talking about the Saturday morning cartoon animated by DIC or Deke.
Deep.
Deep.
Oh, I see somebody didn't get the little outro in their young upbringing. I am very familiar with the kid looks out the window, the stars come up, and it goes, "Deep." And I'm like, "Deep." It's a bit like being in a cult, except calmer.
But the Saturday morning cartoon, we call it that because it was often aired on Saturday mornings, but it was kind of in opposition with another Sonic cartoon that was airing, in the same time.
Ish. So for me,
in the 90s, it didn't air in the same time slot. It aired
no.
weekdays, I think. But the difference between these two series was very kind of stark. And I don't know how they convinced Sega that let's do two Sonic cartoons at the same time with kind of almost completely different versions of the story and lore and some completely different characterizations of these same characters. I don't know how they swung this.
Well, actually, they didn't go to Sega. Sega was the one who we want 2 cartoons. We want one for Saturday as kind of the prestige cartoon, and then we want a weekday thing that just does its own thing. And originally, the 2 were kind of designed to be sister series, where the Saturday morning one would just be longer. It'd deal with longer concepts, and the adventure series would be 15 minutes, Animaniacs kind of stuff. Where it landed is where it landed. But the thing that kind of made it confusing for a lot of us kiddos is both Sonics were voiced by then mega uber superstar Urkel himself, Jaleel White. So yeah, just kill it. I remember seeing it going that's Urkel? Oh, he sounds so much cooler when he's not doing Urkel.
When he's not doing, can I do that?
Yeah.
What was I? Did I do that?
There you go. Look, if we're going to get sued over the catchphrase, let's do it
for real. And I hold a lot of affection for this series, kind of because it kind of took the slightly more kind of serious, kind of less serialized, more story and plot heavy kind of bent. I watched the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was the weekday show. And it had its kind of goofy, slapstick charm, I suppose, but it had those really cringy but also hilarious Sonic Says segments at the end.
Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to do a deeper dive into the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog at some point.
Yeah,
because it
we
really
might have
was
to. It was so very odd. And that series, it really only had Sonic and Tails as the main recurring characters versus if you watch our character episode for the Saturday morning, a much more robust cast of characters and relationships, and more serious plots and themes, as we will go into today. And this illustration for the VHS was done by our favorite frenemy, Ken Penders.
Well, Ken, how are you still here? How did you do this? How?
It's a very good question, but he is still around, and maybe we'll do an episode one day on Ken Penders. That The thought kind of vaguely terrifies me, but it
Yeah.
might be worth it.
I mean, it's hey, if I want to be a lightning rod for the Ken Penders fans, I'm going to be a fox who speaks her mind. I go where the clues find me and I speak my mind. I ask the real questions, such as why did they need to use Sonic in every single title of every episode of season one? You know how hard it is to keep track of everything when it's
Oh,
like, okay,
yeah.
what did you watch? I was Warp Sonic or Harmonic Sonic? What was Warp Sonic about? What was about Sonic encountering his dead, long lost relative for 1,000? What does that have to do with warping?
Yeah. No, like, every one of the episodes in the first season, almost, except for the first one, which is Heads or Tails, has
Yes.
Sonic in it. It's
Yep. It's
Sonic Boom, Sonic and Sally, Ultrasonic, Sonic and the Secret Scrolls, Supersonic, Sonic Racer, Harmonic Sonic, Hooked on Sonic, Sonic's Nightmare, Warp Sonic, Subsonic, and Sonic Pass Cool. And it tells you absolutely nothing about what any of the episodes
aside from
actually.
indicating that Sonic is in the show, which I wonder where we came to that conclusion.
Oh, shocking.
Yeah. Which is which is the thing, as we talked about with as it came up during the character arcs, everybody had season one was actually, despite the fact that the naming was a little off base, was a really solid entry. The characters looked good. Everybody had a good role. Robotnik operated as a terrific villain, with Jim Cummings giving him plenty of menace. Jaleel
Yeah.
provided plenty of cool in contrast to Sonic. And then, as said, a huge cast of characters who weren't just one-offs or just passing in the night. It was more than just Sonic and Tails buddying it. But unfortunately, this like idiosyncratic naming of including Sonic's name in it also meant that it was also kind of just like idiosyncratic episodic episodes. There wasn't really arc, which kind of will throw people off
Mm.
who didn't grow up in that 90s era. Seriously, am I getting grayer? Is that what's happening?
We all are a little bit.
Okay. Well, I'll have to own it. Ah, silver fox, not a gray fox, silver fox.
But yeah, the character designs were solid. You know, they're occasionally off model, like a lot of 90s cartoons. They've got some wacky smears here and there, but for the most part, the character designs are nice and solid, charming. You know, funny animal kind of designs, maybe, but with kind of a nice charm to them.
It is. The palette helps. These are furry animal critters, but and anthropomorphic animals, but they're rendered in they are given the right tones and angles that they can exist in this techno place alongside Snively and Robotnik and the very beefy SWAT bots, who
Mhm.
clearly do not skimp on leg day. They have that exceptional Dorito shape that's like, these are beefy boys. Hey, SWAT bot, do you even lift? Apparently they all
Yeah.
do, in contrast to it. Even the characters here who are toned right, they color up, they brighten up so well. So you had a nice uniform look for that first season and just kind of episodic adventures. It was more mature than what you had in Adventures, but it also wasn't unheard of for a lot of what was going on in Saturday morning at the time. Where, okay, what do you remember at Saturday morning around the time with Sonic? Because I've got a couple I can rattle off the top of my head,
Oh gosh, I watch so many Saturday morning cartoons, but what do you
right?
have, on deck?
So for me, it's like I think of Sonic, I'm like, it was just comfortable alongside Project GKR Geeker, as well as fit in just nicely with Disney's The Mighty Ducks, the animated
Mm,
show, not the live action.
yeah.
Woo, I see you Ducks
A
fans.
lot
I
of
see
those
you.
were the Disney afternoon series.
That migrated over into the
Mhm.
morning style, Kinky in the Brain, but then they had like actiony series
Yeah, all
stuff.
the Kids WB, the
Hmm.
Animaniacs we mentioned earlier. I was a big Tiny Toons fan. We might have to do a Tiny Toons episode at some point. Um,
Oh my goodness.
but, and what else was there? All the Kids WB shows, like Earthworm Jim was another favorite
Hmm.
video game show. Oh, the
It's where they,
Batman 90s cartoon. Man,
yep, Batman the Animated Series.
there was some
Saturday is where
excellent
parked his new,
animated stuff going on in the 90s.
and then Sonic just kind of nuzzled in there. So it wasn't unheard of. Gargoyles
Mhm.
was in this era. So to
Mm,
have
yeah.
slightly more mature stuff happening here, just as along with the weekday cartoon block, as much as anybody will go like, wow, this is kind of like mature and grown up and stuff. And then you compare it to Adventure, which, as we mentioned, when it comes to Sonic, comparisons just happen because even when he came out, he was compared to other video games. Comparisons just crop
Yeah.
up, and here, literally, you have the same actor in the same property across two shows with completely different takes, and comparisons pop up, but it wasn't what happened with Sonic, the fact that it played this more mature wasn't as outside the box as you think. Remember, it was playing against the show that said, "Pay a man enough, and he will walk backward through hell." I know I screwed that up. Gargoyles fans, come for me. I screwed it up.
But yeah, it's so interesting contrasting these two series. But like especially at the beginning, they are doing a little bit more of the slapstickiness, a little bit more
Mhm.
cartooniness. We have Pink Sally at the beginning, very
Yeah.
similar to how we had Pink Sally in the early Archie comics.
Mhm.
But for like one episode, the Heads or Tails episode, we have Pink Sally.
Yeah. That was the one that was supposed to be sister series with adventures, and here
Yeah,
you can really
you
see
can
what that would have been if
really
they'd said.
tell. But particularly, I noticed on my kind of rewatch and refresh of going through these episodes, like how cartoony like some of the Robotnik's badniks were,
Oh,
and
yeah.
in that very first episode, and then later on, I'm trying to find a good image of like the SWAT bots, like you were saying. They look
Bro,
so completely from a completely different show.
they do.
It's wild.
More Stormtrooper, a little more like
Mhm.
a GS. It's
Very,
like
very
they look more like,
Stormtrooper.
yeah, and that's the point. You don't they're supposed to be robots. They're supposed to be faceless. Sonic is supposed to pop these guys through, and it's no big deal.
Yeah, as opposed to, like, this very kind of cartoony slapstick kind of, like, robot design that is this is very similar to the Adventures kinda style, and this is the first episode of the Saturday morning cartoon. You could almost
Mhm.
feel them being, like, interchangeable. Um
Yep. But then as they were building this, basically as they were wrapping this up, they said, let's go in this direction. And Sega said, yeah, sure, whatever. As always, Sega just artfully staring at their IP, being like, we got to watch this thing. And what they were watching was probably Monday Night Football.
Well, I appreciated, the change in tone, myself. As a kid, I was at the age where I was not quite a tween maybe, but kind of, like, looking
Mhm.
forward to that kind of, like, change, a little bit more depth in my storytelling, and this kinda hit right at that right time for me as a kid.
Yeah.
Because these stories not only are the kind of like the plots like a little bit more deeper where they're fighting
Mhm.
this kind of dystopian kind of nightmare systematically, all the characters working together to fight against Robotnik, but also kind of like there's some like relationship drama going on. There's some emotional
Mhm.
depth to the characters that you really would not see in a lot. Like there's like in the second episode, there's like a very tearful moment where Sally is upset because she gets a message from her long lost father on the computer, and she
Mhm.
cries. And like, I feel like kids' cartoons back then, this was just starting to be a thing that characters could have emotions and emote other than wacky slapstick, get hit with a frying pan, kind of stuff.
It did, and that was the secret sauce that made it run and
Hmm.
that got it its audience. It treated these characters sincerely. It treated the situation sincerely, which the situation as even though the theme song more sings to Sonic being an awesome guy, you can just watch it, and every time it really sets the tone. There's used to be a lush, verdant world. This used to be a place of comfort and pastoral joy, and then this giant machine complex came in and took it over. And these characters, our heroes, are rooting, trying to get it back. You see all that in the theme song. So even with this episodic approach, where by episode one we're like, "Hey, are we adventures? No, let's go something a little more mature." When
Yeah.
they go more mature, it pays off big because you're invested because you've just been given everything you need to know, and then you dive in with what's their guerrilla warfare tactics of the week.
Hmm.
and it really worked out for to show off the characters. And I don't want to say growth because season one wasn't about growth; it was about adventure. What's the new adventure of the week? What thing did Robotnik
Yeah.
find that meant they had to work faster, or what thing did
Yeah.
they find
It wasn't
that
necessarily monster of the week, though they did fight different robots of the week, I guess I could say.
oh yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but let's back up and kind of like talk about what is the setting. We talked a little bit
Mhm.
about this in our character episode, but like kind of like what are the main kind of plot that we're dealing with? It's fairly simple, but
Mhm.
they were able to give it a good amount of depth because it's,
Yeah.
Robotnik has taken over the world basically. What feels like the world, this huge city used to be called Mobotropolis, it's now Robotropolis, and he has destroyed kind of like this society of these kind of like peaceful animal people and taken over and destroyed their home. And
Yep.
a ragtag group of teenagers living secretly in the forest in Knothole Village are the freedom fighters, led by Sonic and Sally and their friends Bunny, Antoine, Rotor, and Tails. We're all working together to kind of combat this, and defeat Robotnik.
Yep.
Um,
Sonic is our titular hero, and season one, he's name checked as the leader.
mm,
But just as we mentioned with the character, he may be the leader, but everybody looks to Sally and goes, "But you'll tell us where we're going next week, right?
yeah.
Right?" It's they co-lead. They really do.
Yeah, there's kind of like a fun dynamic between, Sonic and Sally. There's a bit of sniping banter back and forth. There's kind of some romantic tension. Um, there's some jealousy, whenever another male character is around, Sonic kind of becomes like a butthead.
Yeah, it's
Sally doesn't exactly help the situation occasionally. She really feeds into
no,
teasing Sonic's jealousy out,
and
but
just it, and it's not helped by the fact that included in the dudes vying for her attention, Antoine, where complete dismissal, where Sonic doesn't even like register him as this masculine threat or whatever is going on in this posturing. They're all little animals. I guess we could all just say this is like peacocking.
yeah. But, like, I was surprised going back and rewatching this, like, there's, like, a lot of kissing in this show.
Ooh, as a romance,
There's
as a
yeah,
romancer.
as someone who is interested in romance writing, like, for a kids show, it's kinda surprising, like, how often the main leads kiss or flirt with each other.
Yeah.
It was very interesting, that they went with that angle, and, I was doing some reading about this series. Um
Hmm.
They actually had to, like, censor quite a lot of it when it aired, like, in Saudi Arabia, like, all of the romance was basically edited out, which I thought was interesting because it's so completely, chaste. It's just like a kiss on the cheek or lips, nothing nothing more
It's
scandalous.
very chase. Oh my gosh. If they're called wow, different cultures, y'all,
Yep.
it's a different regime. It's
Mm.
always it's always interesting about who's in power and what they don't want to see. And what they don't want to see, Son Alley. No
I
Son Alley.
I guess
How
not.
it is.
It's so funny, but, like, what I loved most about this series is not just, the romance, but just, like, the characters, uh the way that they kind of, like, really relied on each other and each other's
Hmm.
strengths and worked together. It's the friendship will save everything kind of, vibe that a lot of cartoons have. But, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just like a core to, like, the human experience is, how characters are affected by each other. And we see this kind of like emotional depth even from Sonic. Like, you
Hmm.
know, w we mentioned earlier, like, it's only teenagers basically that seem to be alive on this planet because everybody has been, roboticized, turned into robots. The only ones that were able to escape were basically the younglings for the most part. But
Yeah.
Sonic's, Uncle Chuck, who was, like, his father figure, has been turned into a robot, and, like, for the first part of the series, he's just, like, evil, he's a robot, he's been hypnotized, he's been turned into an evil, kind of creature, and he only can become semi-sentient, when Sonic uses the power ring. or
For
just
season
Simone
one.
1. Yeah, for season 1. But, this really affects Sonic. This is like his parental figure, and that's upsetting that they basically have been ripped away from him and, like, he
And the show
cried
doesn't
about
back
it.
off of it.
Yeah, there's the real stakes kind of, like, to this show.
Yeah, like this picture we've got up of Sonic with a tear rolling down his cheek. This isn't manly done. This is emotionally sensitive. This is not him going, "Oh, my uncle." This is him going, "I miss my uncle." And the emotion that Jaleel White poured in, everybody showed up too. You often probably heard us compliment Jim Cummings, but and joked about Jaleel being Urkel, but good actors abound. Cass Osi, Jaleel White, everybody was firing on all cylinders and played to the honesty and realism of these characters, playing to the hero, playing to the leader who was wearing a lot. These characters left impressions. I named my first dog after Sally because she left such a mark.
That's right.
So it's not surprising that, that resonated and connected with quite a number of people to the point where you'd had these episodic episodes like here we've got when Sally got cloned and Tails was the one who spotted the thread that the robot clone wasn't acting quite right. And that
Yeah.
gave Sonic a little insight to go in like save the day. And that's something that comes up a lot more in season 1 and season 2. Sonic being a little more of a guile hero. Like he does a lot of running and saving the day with his super speed. He's Sonic the frickin' Hedgehog here,
Mhm.
people. But there's also points where in the first episode, where in the first season, he meets up with a wizard who steals his speed and won't let it get it back until Sonic gets the MacGuffin of the day back to him. And Sonic demonstrates that he's smart on his feet. He can make it work. I think if season 2 Sonic had his speed taken away, he'd be walking into walls.
Yeah, there's some interesting dynamics here, kind of talking about, like, the monster, the mission of the week. Some of them get really wacky and off the wall. Like you said, there's a literal wizard who
Literal wizard.
Robotnik is trying to steal his spells.
Techno spells. This was a techno wizard, by the way, y'all.
Techno spells. Tech tech
Like
techno spells. Like,
techno spell. He's got a crystal with a computer raptor. And look, I I'm not making any of this up.
uh,
All of you go to the Sonic SatAM wiki and you will see that this wizard we stare at with the hook nose, and this is not an August.
no,
This is
this is
the magic techno
yeah,
wizard.
it's a weird humanoid wizard, and there's also this guy. I don't remember
Oh
what his
God,
deal
yeah.
was.
He was the spy master.
There's, like, so many strange kind of, like, one-off characters. There's also, like, a bunch of weird monsters that look like they belong from a different cartoon. Like, this looks like it was from the '90s Ghostbusters cartoon.
But I think what it made, like looking at all those, I think what happened is season 1 Sonic felt a little Star Warsy, perhaps.
Mm.
Another
That's a
world
good
with
pull, yeah.
adventure. And no, this like totally. This is why I'm a good detective. Inspiration strikes. I find the answer. Watson says the thing. Wilson says the thing, and then I have my
No,
lieutenant.
totally. I can see, like, especially, like, the design of
Mhm.
Knothole being very kind of, Star Wars inspired.
Rebel base.
Mhm.
Rotors even got the side slash like Chewbacca. It's all coming
Ah,
together. I see
I
it. I
see
see it for
it.
what it is.
I see
And
it.
that would explain these rando characters who come
Yeah.
on, Techno Wizard, Spy Bot, that Robotnik works with, even though he took over the whole world, but this guy operates it plays more in a Star Warsy sense. So
Mhm.
that makes sense. Hey, one mystery of season 1 solved.
But, all these characters, they have, the kind of found family vibe. They're all just teenagers, but they're taking care of each other. They're fighting against their oppressors. They're taking care of the younger characters like Tails, who's basically the baby for the first part. While
Hmm.
also, fighting robots, running races, and evil Dr. Robotnik. Like, there's a terrifying scene where, like, his eyes literally glow red in the dark. It's just like, wait, so is he also a robot? It's not unclear.
He's got cybernetic eyes and
Yeah.
ears and an arm. Like the thing is, yeah, it's more explicit. You have to dig into stuff. My sources tell me anyway that yes, it's cybernet ears and eyes for Robotnik,
Mm.
but he's also upset at Sonic for roboticizing his arm.
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
And it just reveals layers here. But yeah, no, anytime
Yeah.
Robotnik's eye would flare, danger, Will Robinson, danger. You want to back off. That was when the menace would come out, the voice would get low and growly, and Snively would be checking to make sure that his plumbing was in order because he was about to miss himself.
But yeah, I totally see it. I totally see the Star Wars of it, that even the princess kind of role as, like, the rebel
Yeah,
leader,
yeah.
Princess
This
Leia, Princess
Sally,
Sally.
Leia, yeah. You can see
I
the
can
it's
see it. The kind of
snark.
bantery snarkness between
Yeah.
the 2 romantic leads. I see it.
Mm-hmm. Except this time Sonic and Sally are not related, y'all. Absolutely not. They are separate. This is a Han Leia situation, not a Luke Leia situation.
Exactly. But that's funny, I didn't even think about the rotor thing with, like, the belt of the bandolier or whatever.
Yeah, no, but and this was and in that way, season one, it's not a surprise that we got season two off of the strength of season one. It was episodic, but it had this nice ticking core. And honestly, they could have just made another season of season one, like literally just done more adventures, more, let's just name them episodes, all Sonic for whatever reason. Look, I get it. The show is called Case Files of Sonic. We clearly like the man. But how am I supposed to pick out what's the difference between Warp Sonic and Subsonic? Sonic's nightmare at least made sense. It was
Yeah.
about Sonic's nightmare.
Yeah, Sonic literally, having a terrible dream that Sally gets roboticized and he can't save her. Eh, it's like, yeah, there's those stakes again, it's his friends would basically be, turned against him,
I
mindless kind of slaves. It's
mhm.
kind of scary.
It is. It's one of the reasons why Uncle Chuck is Dog Mutsky and the fears of roboticization. It is the complete obliteration of the self. And it's the problem with roboticization that Chuck was like, okay, I got to come back to the drawing board. But for Robotnik, it was like, wait, it obliterates free will? Go on. No wonder big old Robotnik was like, go on. Julian twirls his mustache.
But I'm trying to
So
think,
it,
more about, like, what happens in the first season. A lot of it is, like you said, the kind of adventure of the week. It's funny that the show starts off, like, kinda in media res. There's no, like, introduction to the characters. We are just shown them in a typical kind of, like, mission, and we kind of glean the story from the showing rather than the telling of it. There's no, like,
yep.
introduction. We're just kind of, like, thrown immediately into this world, which I thought was interesting for a kids show,
Oh, yeah.
especially
This was super common.
with such a, like, deep kind of, like, amount of characters, um, which kind of becomes kind of like a thing later on where they're just, like, suddenly new characters, and there's just, like, no mention, like, "Oh, yeah, they've always been here."
Sure, they have.
Yeah.
Sure, they have. Let's unbox it. Season one, there's not much to get into here in terms of story because it's just episodic. It's pulpy. It's a pulp adventure of the week. They have a thing, they do a thing. Sonic encounters a problem, he gets around a problem, they solve it. They have emotional, they have catharsis, and it keeps going. He impersonates robots. It works out. I'm not kidding. Don't judge the image. It works out. Sonic is smart in the first season. Then along comes season two,
Yeah.
and a couple of things happen.
Yeah, like, there is,
Oof.
like, some stakes here. I think this is the last episode of season 1, and then we get into season 2. Or wait, no,
Mhm.
I forgot there's also a dinosaur episode.
Yep, dinosaur episode. That was one of the good ones. Tails befriended, like, uh, basically a triceratops without the pokey bits. It's kind of somewhere between Mr. Snuffleupagus and a dinosaur, and they're called pteropods, and they're like dolphins in Mobius. And Sally rigs up something so that the mom pteropod can communicate with them, and it's
Oh,
mostly just like
yeah.
fear and I'm scared, stuff like that. Uh, but it's this genuinely touching little quick nature episode in a show that's already pretty dominantly about a nature forward environmental
Yeah,
mess,
there's, like,
and
a
it works.
lot of environmental messaging, which is another theme that was very popular in '90s cartoons back in the day. The very
We had
Fern
Captain
Gully of
Planet
it,
and the
yes.
Planeteers.
The planet, the
Oh,
Fern Gully of
oh,
it
yeah.
all.
This was the vibe, but it kind of worked because they used Tails as a focus element and started to expand him a bit. This is the first taste you get. Well, perhaps Tails might just get 10,000 hours and fly a biplane. Could happen, but
Maybe.
maybe. But it shows him expanding as a character, and they gave him room to work. Paid off. Tails had made a friend in the pteropod, and they were able to escort him and his family to this sort of land before time vibe
Right.
where they'd be safe from Robotnik. Uh, and that was one of my like I really dug on that episode. That just like really hit, that really clicked for me. Maybe just because I'm a sap fraternity environment.
I think it gave a lot of the other characters time to shine. Like is the main character, but all of the
Hmm.
other like side characters get their moments to shine. Like in this episode also, not only does kind of Tails get a moment, but also Bunny, she kind of is able to kind of come to the rescue with her new like telescoping legs ability.
Yeah.
And it's all very cute and they're able to save the day, using teamwork.
Yep. There's even that's right. There's the episode where Rotor also stepped up to the plate and got to be a hero. And he told Sonic later on, like, "Hey, you do that. I'm gonna fix this over here.
Mm.
I'm over here, guys. I'm in the garage." That's it.
Yeah, I
He
was
doesn't need.
surprised that Rotor actually had a focus episode because he unfortunately doesn't really get a lot of focus later on in the series, but
Yeah.
he's around more in season 1. And one other thing, so in at the end of season 1 and into season 2, you'll notice some changes in the character designs, particularly. Like some look better, some look worse.
Sally gets more in line with the Sally that a lot of us grew up on and knew through the bulk of her run. Blue vest, blue
Yeah.
eyes, blue boots, swordish hair. There's been riffs on this, but this is when her look like pushed into the final appearance she'd essentially have, where even Sonic would get an update because of changes over in the video game. She would maintain this more or less for the rest of her run in through the comics until things got into. We'll dive into that case
Yeah,
later.
later.
That's a big file.
Oh, yes, we will dive into the Archie comic series, later. We already did the Knuckles miniseries, which was a whole other can of worms, but but yeah,
Go
like,
check it out.
the character designs, like, particularly the ones that you can notice the big changes are Sally. She gets I don't know, she gets a piece of clothing. Before she was nude other than boots like most of the other like Sonic.
You know,
I guess he
just
also has
Mickey Mouse,
gloves.
Donald Duck.
Donald ducking it, and, but she gets a vest, and she also gets, blue irises with black pupils and a highlight, versus before, she only had, like, the solid blue eyes with a white highlight, which I thought was
Yep.
also cute, but so they do this kind of treatment with the eyes on a couple of other characters, including Antoine, who I think looks worse. I mean, this is a goofy
Yeah.
screenshot of him, but, like, if you compare that to his kind of, like, more charming design from earlier, I don't know, somehow I find this, like, design with the solid black eyes just, like, cuter somehow? Like, I don't know, it seems more streamlined, and, like, they tried to, like I don't know why they changed the design. He just looks worse.
It's mostly because of the hair.
I
They
guess.
shifted the shape of his head, and when you've got the eye, it threw off the balance. Like, this makes him more expressive, easier to read. I don't know if it made him easier to animate, but it made him an easier character to read expression-wise, and that's what they were going for, more that empathy, because they put Antoine front and center in a lot more episodes in
He
season 2 than season 1, mostly to act as from what I have gathered and what I'm seeing, he's kind of supposed to be the breather between the heavier stuff because what's easier to write than the cowards? Works for Shaggy and Scooby, works for everything Hanna-Barbera did, I
yeah.
guess.
He
Here we have
acts
the stupid.
Yeah, he acts as the kind of, like, comedy relief character, and yeah, from what I did a little research, as well, like, ABC wanted this to be a little bit lighter, they didn't want it to be too heavy, even though I think that's why
Okay.
this series was ultimately really popular is because it just tackled some of those heavier kind of themes.
Mhm.
ABC wanted something lighter, they wanted something a little bit goofier, so you notice, like, in the first episode of the second season, we get a couple of like a very kind of goofy again robot design, very similar to the first episode of season 1. Um, and we also are introduced to a new character who's been there all along, Dulcie the dragon.
He's totally been here.
No one remarks on where she has come from. She is just here. She's always been here. We've always had a dragon, a huge
Always.
dragon that we can ride. So, kind of like Antoine, this character also acts as some comedy relief, as she's a dragon who they use for flight, but she cannot land. She is always crashing into things and then basically is dizzy and talks to her mother, her dead mother.
Yeah.
It's funnier than how I just described it.
It's more like she's just talking to like it's like when she bonks her head, it's like when you're 5 and you're like, "Mom, I don't wanna get up." It's that joke, and
Yeah.
they play it over and over again. Fortunately, Cree Summers, very good voice actress, she really manages to dial in the kind of
Yeah.
quirky anime girl vibe of it so that she's just a klutz, but yeah, it's like Dulcie whereas Antoine's straight comedy, Dulcie does a bit of comedy, but she also serves plot purposes, and she even gets a 1 or 2 she even gets an episode straight for her, like, it literally is just called Dulcie. So
Yeah,
and that is all
it's
about
funny.
her.
It's very it's like in the second half of the second season, Dulcie gets like her own kind of focus episode where they go and they help out a dragon family. Basically like the last of her race is
Mhm.
being captured by Robotnik and then try to save the dragon mother and baby. Um,
Yep. They have to save the egg. Dulcie has to babysit the egg for a while. It's the only time she lands well because she's like, "I've got an egg." Which just makes me go like, "Okay, so you'll crash your friends, but not with a babe dude, come on, where's the love?" Sonic can shrug off a couple crashes, but Antoine's 5 seconds away from being captain of PTSD of the squad of I need a nap forever.
But yeah, it's so funny that I was talking about this before we started recording, but like
Mhm.
the tonal whiplash that occurs throughout the second
Yeah,
season is all over the place, folks, because we
it
have
is.
these comedy relief episodes and bits where Sonic's literally, in a pinball machine, Sonic spinball style, and then he loses a new ally, is pulled into the void, and is there's like a basically a kind of bleak ending where the heroes kind of
Yeah.
lose a little bit, and you're just like, What?"
Oh, yeah, it's rough, so they tried to buffer it with just these kind of goofier episodes. In fact, the season starts a little bit with it's tries to play it off as, "Oh, we're just doing adventure of the week," and there is some of that. They try to de-roboticize her on Bunny, and Uncle Chuck doesn't take, but it does
Yeah.
give Uncle Chuck as an insider, as a mole with Robotnik, because he still looks like a robot, but
Mhm.
managed to retain his free will through absolute sheer bullheadedness. My kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's got moxie. And with his moxie, he's able to take it on. And that becomes the first of many threads that just run through the second season that
Mhm.
we don't know. So that Chuck delivering info that builds up toward the end of the season and pays off in a big way. The void shown there earlier, it's the first drip of something that's going to pay off much later. This kind of Phantom Zone-esque place where many Mobians have been sent thanks to Robotnik and the villainous Ixis Naugus. These they start leaving seeds that grow into these very interesting flowers so that by the time we get to the end of the season, there's good payoff there, and the feeling that season 3 was gonna happen, you can see where it came from, but it did start off and still kept to that adventure. They found a roboticizer. After
Mhm.
that, this, bull here, Ari, he was a swashbuckler, they're like, "Yeah, you got our back, dude," and then he proves not to, and then he actually has it's the back and forth and emotional range of that, but it's
Mhm.
still there's still a core adventure there, and then
Yeah, and there's just lots of
we
like
hit
those great characterful moments, like you said, the
yeah.
bunny derobotization, derobotization, derobotization. How do you even say that? Derobotization,
De-roboticized?
deroboticize. That's a better way of saying it. And the whole Uncle
You
Chuck
realize I'm
bit.
going to keep all of this.
Please do. Again, it's those kind of like deep kind of character moments in addition to kind of like those plot kind of seeds that they're planting in the background.
Yeah, it's really deft. It's well done. It's very early Deep Space Nine where they weren't building it hot and heavy yet, but they had a chance and they went for an and the thing is you can still watch this stuff out of order and it
Yeah.
still works because it's not heavy on it. Does watching earlier help you a bit? Because you're like, oh, they've laid the seed for that earlier. Yeah, it totally does. But they also wrote it deftly enough that you can watch every one of these episodes out of oh wow, that's actually a really good one of Sally there. Look at her.
Yeah, there she's
She's
like
got great
very
things.
cute expression on in this scene.
Yeah, she's got a very smug expression of Sonic, very proud. Sorry, it's once we get this for like audio only, I'm gonna be like, just imagine a really cute expression of somebody who's looking at you fondly, and they nailed that for Sally. She's looking at Sonic and Chuck. This is a very
Yeah,
sweet movie.
there's times where the animators really hit it really nicely with these character designs. Very charming.
Yeah, here it is. Here's the Renaissance painting from Sonic
Mhm.
SatAM. But, but they still rhythmed it well because I realized as I'm looking through here, I'm like, "Okay, Adventure Week, ooh, kind of serious." But then they did No Brainer,
Mm.
where Sonic got his memories wiped, and that you'd think that would be like, "Oh, serious,"
Oh,
but it
yeah.
actually manages to balance Adventure and Goofy because Sonic doesn't quite know what's going on, Tails is kinda hip to it, then eventually they get Snively zapped, and he's like, "I'm gonna take on Robotnik, Sonic's my bud," and it's really well-balanced comedy that leads into the only two-parter in the whole series. This one, you can't asynchronous this. Blast
Mm.
of the Past
The
1
Blast to
and
the
2.
Past one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
That one where they go back in time.
yeah, they get like some special item. I can't remember if it's like time stones or scrolls or something.
It's a time scroll.
Time
Yeah,
scroll.
they get them or time stone,
Time
sorry.
stones.
On the floating island even, like,
Yep.
Knuckles is somewhere going, "Not my floating island."
Wrong island. But they Sonic and Sally are get sent back in time, and they're gonna basically try to save the world in the past, change the past to affect the future. We all know how well that
Mhm.
often works in these kind of stories.
Yeah.
But we get some very cute character designs of young Sonic and Sally and very kind of a couple of cute, very charming interactions between what you would think would be a paradox and then just destroy the world.
Sonic meets his younger self, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm a dude. What's up?" Sally's just like, "Hey, yeah, Alicia." Little Sally's like, "That's my middle name." And I'm over here as an adult. As a child, I'm like, "Okay, middle name, whatever." Adult, this changes everything. Hero, get more string for the board,
It's
and
it's
you
so
get to
cute.
see.
What?
It is. It's adorable, and you get to see You get to see Mobotropolis. You get to see what they're fighting for.
Yeah, and you get to see again King Acorn and Uncle Chuck before they were turned in.
Hmm.
Well, the king was thrown into the void, versus Uncle Chuck, who was roboticized. He was the inventor of the roboticization machine, roboticizer.
Roboticization, very
Whatever.
good.
I got it out that time. Um,
You did it.
but it's Robotnik who portrays him. He has this very fancy hat. I don't know if I can scroll up. Whoops. And Snively
It
has
I can
hair in the
yeah,
past.
you can tell it's the past. Nivlee's got hair. This
Yeah.
is back when King Acorn and Uncle Chuck trusted Robotnik.
Mhm.
Guys,
Yeah. We thought that was a good idea.
guys.
But of course, he betrays them. Sonic and Sally can't stop. They can't change the past.
No,
And
they're too late.
they're too late. But they are able to save one character. They're like Nanny Rosie.
Yeah,
Sally like convinces like you can't. No, I don't remember exactly what she says, but somehow she is able to like save Rosie, and then Rosie is now alive and appears in Not Whole Village in the future,
yep.
in the current
She's
state, which is interesting.
Yeah, they do manage to change one. They don't change much.
Yeah.
And a lot of what they do, makes it feel like it was preordained that Sonic and Sally had to go back. It's one of those stable time
Mhm.
loop dealies
Yeah,
where they're back in
exactly.
time to ensure some things because it is because Sonic went back in time that Dr. Robotnik has a robotic left arm. He like
Mm.
bumped, knocked him off, and Robotnik got that roboticized arm, and so he's just angry at Sonic, which adds this nice layer of like Robotnik wants to roboticize everything. He loves it. He loves his mechanical eyes and ears that he put on
Mm.
one is that he loves the machines, but he will choose how much of himself is a machine. It really shows his vanity, and it's that dictator. It works for that dictator. Do as I say, not as I am,
Yeah, he
and it
wants to be
works
in
for this.
complete
Mhm.
control over everything.
Oh yeah, at all times. And but with this little exception, with the fact that Sally was able to convince Rosie to go with the children. They needed protection, whereas it sounds like in the past she tried to go and help Julian and Chuck, but
Mm.
it's like, no, Marcel, telling you this ain't gonna work. Kids need you more, and she's like, okay, fine. And then when they get back, Tails says Rosie's gonna read to us, or just Rosie's there, and Sonic's like, hang on, who's Rosie? And Sally's like, "Oh, I'll tell you about it in the future. And since Rosie's minor enough, they get away with it. Unlike
Yeah,
Dulcie, who they just kind of said, "Hi, Dulcie.
I totally think
I'm not bitter about this."
it's just very odd. But it's so interesting. So in between this kind of serious, very plot heavy episode, we have some truly baffling Antoine focused episodes, which are all comedy relief. One
Yep.
being where like he joins another group of animal characters like a biker gang and becomes their king, but then
Yeah.
they cannibal style try to eat him.
Yep. The nasty hyenas. It's their thing.
Very odd. And then there's an episode where um we see a lot of characters' pajamas for some reason in the second season.
Well, they were on a camp. Yeah, I don't know about that, but they were on a camping trip. Mills is trying to become a better tracker as a freedom fighter. Like this is where we get to see like those little even in a Goofy episode, they managed to be like, "Hey, Tails, here's a little character development." And
Yeah.
Sonic is teaching it, and Antoine's there because this is supposed to be Liar, and we've only got 15 minutes. And Sonic tells a ghost story, and of course Antoine goes bonkers about it and
Yeah.
flips out and everything.
These episodes, this is like a double episode where it's like half the time of a normal episode, but they have two short stories instead of one longer story. So
Hmm.
there's two of these, two episodes that are cut into two, and they're all Antoine focused, which is so baffling. But I'm guessing it came from up above that like we need some slapstick in here to kind of combat how serious the story is getting in the other bits.
And also, if you're just looking to lighten things up, all you have to do is turn it on and go like, you. We don't
Yeah.
have to think too much if we want to make things light because you have one brain cell and it's always screaming. No, two brain cells. One always screaming, the other is always thinking about this is how you do a proper crepe. This is how you make escargot. Do you know a cheese and wine? Have you no culture? So he's got two brain cells. One's obsessed about being a proper French gentleman, and the other is freaking out all the time. I can relate. I have one brain cell that's always looking for clues and mysteries. The other one needs me to lay down. Boy, being a detective's stressful.
But yeah, I was just looking at through my screenshots. It's like for some reason there's like a bunch of PJs in this. Like we see Antoine's PJs,
Yeah,
we see Robotnik's PJs, we see
which
Sally
are
for some reason has a nightgown, even though when she's walking
yeah,
around she's just wearing a vest. It's,
you know,
I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but also like King Max King Acorn also has this beautiful princess bed in the void.
it's so pretty.
I don't know why. But yeah, so in between two very kind of serious episodes, we have those two half Antoine focused episodes. Then we get the
Hmm.
kind of fun Dulcie episode where they save the last of the dragons. Then we go into again kind of figuring out what is up with the void. And
Yep.
they get this special device and are able to get into the void, and they meet the other main antagonist of the second season, Ixis Nagus, who may be
Hmm.
set up to be the main antagonist in season 3, but unfortunately we'd never quite get there.
Nope. He was due to be eviler, evil. I'm sorry. I keep looking at his face. He's just got the worst face. I know he's supposed to be a troll gremlin thing, but man, you've heard gremlins and trolls got their stuff together better than this.
He has the most baffling character design. Um we talked about this in our character episode, but like he's got this weird purple jumpsuit and one claw and a horn and I don't know, elf ears. I
Yeah,
I think
the
this is
crab claw is the worst.
the worst character design in the series by far, in my opinion.
Like everybody else is somewhere between. Even when Rotor and Antoine got their downgrade. They went from being A's to like C's and D's.
Mhm.
They're still watchable. We look at Naugus and all we think is you're an
Yeah,
abomination.
like, he's such a downgrade from Robotnik. But
Really is.
yeah, so he is kind of this evil creature, wizard, stuck in the void, um, where King Acorn has been stuck as well. He's been thrown into the void by Robotnik. Sonic and Sally and crew go to try to rescue him, but of course they can't quite pull it off quite yet. And
Yeah, because to leave the void, thanks to the fact that Acorn and Naugus have been in there as long as they have, while Naugus has control over the whole of the void thanks to his magic. When as soon as they leave, their bodies start to crystallize. They will explicitly die if they don't go back in. So they have to be staved apart. However, they're not kept apart. Oh yes, the slug head.
sorry,
For the brief time when Naugus is out, he does mess with Robotnik and
I
gives him a bunch of goofy hits.
accidentally flipped to this screenshot I took of Robotnik as a slug. But
Let's get back to the screenshot
yeah.
of King Acorn. He and Sally do get at least a tearful reunion where they get
Mhm.
to at least, connect, have that strong emotional basis that we talked about. And he's also able to pass on information about the other freedom fighters. There are other freedom fighters? Yes, yes, there are. Because King Acorn has a list, got it to Sally. So that's another seed that got planted.
Yeah, so they're not able to save the king, but there's still some resolution. Um,
Hmm.
a little bit of a happy ending. And then we get second two-part comedy relief Antoine episode.
Yep.
So
So contrived episodes, we get Sonic and Antoine are roommates and it doesn't work out.
and then there's an episode, the half episode where there's like Rotor designs a robot and it falls in love with Antoine for some reason. Her name is Rebecca. She looks vaguely like the Bride of Frankenstein. Is a
Sorry.
cat.
It's the image that you've got up. It's Rebecca's straddling Antoine. Rotor's just off to the side like, what's up, man?
What is going
What's up? How you doing, Antoine? I see you got Rebecca straddling you there. That looks like it's awesome. How are you there?
It's so strange. So yeah, we have these two just completely pointless mini episodes right after
So
this very
pointless.
heavy episode about with the king, with
Yep.
the plot setting
There
up
we
a
go.
potential new villain, heavy
Mm-hmm.
kind of family drama, and then we get Rebecca.
Rebecca, and literally the name of the episode is The Odd Couple, and they play it for every bit. And unfortunately, this is the last of the
Yes.
breather episodes. We then go into we're headed straight for the end. The Doomsday Project has been
Yeah.
named, and
So
we are headed to the end.
So, with the information that King Acorn gave them, they're able to locate another kind of sect of freedom fighters, the Wolf Pack with Lupe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to really mention her in our character episode, but I always thought she had kind of a cool character design.
But yeah, Loop's awesome.
And all of them kind of like band together and kind of like form like an alliance to fight Robotnik.
Yep. So it's now no longer just our freedom fighters. There are other freedom fighters. You can see the seeds they were planting here, but it all still functioned as its own thing. They met up with Loop and there was a central problem. They were able to bring Ari back from the void thanks to the last one. So to reconnect with all these other freedom fighters and set up for season three. So many freedom fighters, but season three wouldn't happen because then next we get to Henge, where we dive into like the origin of where the power rings come from with these deep power stone MacGuffin things.
Mm-hmm.
Not just power stones, deep,
Deep,
like
deep,
deep.
deep.
Yeah, it's like James Earl Jones power stone.
Very,
Fight
very
on.
odd. But
Yeah.
yes, they get the MacGuffins, um, and they use them to and Uncle Chuck helps them kind of like infiltrate Robotropolis, where they're
Yeah.
then able to set off an explosion. Sonic and Sally like shoot away and a bunch of sparkles
because they're
somehow.
jacked up on deep power stone
Deep Power
juice.
Stone juice.
Yeah, like it's you have the episode where they find the deep power stones and they sort out that whole mess. Robotnik gets away with one, but they manage to keep one for themselves. In addition to that, Chuck gets revealed as a mole, but he still figures out how he can hide in Robotropolis to keep feeding information, and that leads to the whole Doomsday Project thing, where they get both power stones, link them together, and then Sonic and Sally can both juice, and they're both just filled with like destruct. There's this big, cute little moment where Sonic goes, "Hey, rather than connecting the stones forward the normal way, which would release a lot of destructive power, what if we connected them backwards so the power folds in on itself?" And they're like, "Sure, that'll work," and it does.
And
Robotnik gets imploded.
Robotnik is finally defeated, and our heroes are triumphant. They soar off, but
Mhm.
who is left behind?
Dun,
Dun dun
dun.
dun. Snively now thinks that he is the head
So,
honcho.
he
he is
thinks he is.
he is set up as, oh, maybe he is more of a problem than we think. He's like finally thinking he's coming into his own. But the very last image we leave off on season 2 is this pair of red glowing eyes. And it's supposed to be Ixis Naugus, is what the
Mhm.
writers of the series have said. But when I looked at this, I did not think that was the case. This doesn't look like Ixis Naugus's like character design at all. Like it
Nope.
makes me think that like did they retcon that it's supposed to be Ixis Naugus? Because it looks like to me either it was going to be Metal Sonic, Mecha Sonic, or
Hmm.
Knuckles. Just like the shape of the eyes and, like, you can kind of clearly see what looks like a kind of like a button nose, and you just like
Snoot,
yeah,
perhaps.
like an animal, like, snoot like Sonic has, and it's just like, this doesn't look like if we look at I'm trying to find Nagus again, like, it doesn't really look anything like what his eyes look like. He has 2 separate distinct eyes and kind of like more of
Mhm.
like a beak-like nose, and it doesn't look anything like that last image to me. This looks like an animal character to me, like an anthropomorphic character. So,
Yeah, that's very big Metal Sonic vibes.
mhm,
Good catch, Fluffy.
I thought it was going to be this is, my 12-year-old theory is that it was gonna be Metal Sonic or perhaps Knuckles. Uh, yeah, they said that this is apparently supposed to be Xysnagus, and he was going to be the main antagonist of season 3 that unfortunately never came to pass. The series was canceled after 2 seasons.
Yep. Wasn't doing the numbers that ABC wanted it to do, so they were like, "And we're gone." But that didn't stop very expert Sonic fans from piecing together the clues, talking to the former people who worked it, what they had for plans for the
Mhm.
next season. So if you go scouring the good old interwebs, you can find out what Sonic Season 3 could have been. And what a lot of things that were in Season 3 in the proposal ended up in the comics too. Ken
That's
Penders
true.
looked in like was like, "Well, yeah, I can totally put this." So it did eventually see the light of day in some format, just not in the good old TV episodes they have.
Yeah, I highly recommend this documentary by good old Groovy Jake on YouTube. Um,
Thank you, Groovy Jim.
he's done a great amount of research about the 3rd season, and kind of like pieced together from bits of scripts and lots of interviews from people who worked on the first 2 seasons, particularly Ben Hurst, I believe, was the main writer, and who was a driving force trying to get the 3rd season happening, but unfortunately ran into a ton of roadblocks from Sega. In particular, there is an anecdote that apparently for season 3, the show was occurring at the same time as the Archie comics. And Ben Hurst, one of the head writers from the Saturday morning cartoon, reached out to some of the writers working on the Archie comics, namely our frenemy and Penders himself, to have a conversation about like, hey, maybe we can work on this together. And Ben-Hur had a great conversation with the people at Sega of America saying, "Hey, yeah, we were thinking of if we can't, do a full season, we could maybe do a movie, something I'd really love to talk about, getting this project moving forward." But then, after he had another conversation with Penders, when Ben-Hur called back Sega of America to kind of further the conversation, the people at Sega were extremely standoffish and had a very suddenly negative attitude towards the project. And it seems to be implied that maybe Penders was a big aspect in that decision. Like something that Penders had said to Sega affected this change. So just another reason to revile his name, perhaps. But this is hearsay. This is only what I've read on various fan wikis and interviews, and within this documentary itself, various details. It was very, very interesting. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah, definitely check out the documentary.
Mhm.
Alrighty.
But there's also a lot of great, fan projects going on right now. This particular project called Sonic, ReJuiced, where a bunch of animators have, worked together, like splicing together, couple of seconds of animation each into, like, I believe it's like the first episode?
It is.
And it's really fun. I definitely recommend everyone check it out. It's got a lot of great fan art works in it. A collaborative project, an affectionate parody, they've called it.
SatAM kind of left in a lot of us.
Mhm.
It left in us passion that let us pick up the comics and keep reading it, and maybe come back with our own gray fur and Lucky Girl Friday to talk about what a great series it was and how it is still thought of today.
Yeah, it definitely has a legacy. There's fans out there who are still trying to get this third season slash movie made. I'll probably try to link to them in the description of this video. But there's still a lot going on out there, and with the kind of revitalization of the whole franchise with the new movies, there's new comics, there's new TV shows coming out. Like it's a huge
Yeah,
property right now, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something with these characters at some point. Again in the future, whether it's a big fan project or maybe something more official. We'll have to see.
we'll see. Maybe one day. We can always dream. Till then, we keep diving through the cases.
Well, that just about does it for our investigation today. And what a wild ride it was. Join us next time, and we will be digging up the dirt on the Sonic the Hedgehog live action movie, the first one.
Really, the first live action movie that we know of. If there's another one, you'll tell us. Because if you love unraveling mysteries with us, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe and turn on notifications. That way, you won't miss a single clue or high speed chase.
And our adventures are only going to get wilder, and trust me, you'll want to be the first on the scene.
With me, Jones Gray Fox, multiversal detective extraordinary.
And spare the Tanuki, your plucky girl Friday.
And this has been the Case Files of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Until next time, keep those tails spinning and those minds sharp.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
Ah.